2.
And we're ready to go. Welcome, everybody. Junior Hockey Advisor, Jeff Colson here. I just realized, and maybe you can help me on this, as the actual discussion group not had a live feed for the last few weeks. Is everybody getting most of this from the main page? Because I just went on and checked the streaming service and saw that it was disabled, so I hooked it back up. Hopefully it's there now. But let me know if the last few episodes or live streams we've actually had that. And I do know now it is live because I'm actually looking at it. So on a little bit of a delay. So anyway, welcome. Once again, I'm Jeff Colson. This is the Junior Hockey Advisor. We're going to sit here and we're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about tonight when it comes to hockey and the progression of hockey and trying to go through the education process in hockey, especially from youth to junior to college. Don't really get involved with the pros. Don't get involved with the Mite tournament or with the local rink, but we can probably help with anything else along the way and look forward to the discussion. We've got a great group already going. Just so you know, I asked for a little help this last week with, first of all, let's get rolling on the show and then we'll go on to a lot of stuff. If you've got the graphics and the music, you got to use them. So I got to make sure I put that in there. I asked for a little help this last week. I got on and put a little broadcast out saying, hey, look, we have a YouTube page. Support us if you can by subscribing to the YouTube page, Junior Hockey Advisor. Invite some friends to Junior Hockey Advisor, the page. Invite some friends to the actual discussion group. And it was a phenomenal turnout. Thank you so much for the people. We had a couple hundred new people actually join Junior Hockey Advisor this week, and it's all because of you. It's all because of the people that are supporting this process. As you know, I want to keep this process going. I want to be able to grow this, but we cannot get support without a large following. So this last week was probably one of our best weeks in a long time. We actually had a reach of over 15,000 and we had over 6,000 video watches, which for us, that's great. I know that in the YouTube world and in the world of social media, there's a 12-year-old out there doing some kind of hip hop dance that gets 4 million people. In our world, it's a big deal. Okay, those numbers are pretty good for us and we're pretty happy with them, but they got to grow. We've got to keep growing. So anything you can do to help us sure would be appreciated. Support the YouTube page, Junior Hockey Advisor. Watch a video or two there. At least subscribe. Like us and follow us on the page itself and on the discussion group. Participate and invite your friends. For those of you, there was one person this week without a contest. I know when we give away Howie's hockey tape, everybody invites their friends. You invite your uncles, your aunts, and people that have nothing to do with hockey. But this week we actually had some people that invited 15, 20 people, and they immediately were engaging. The new audience was immediately engaging, and that's so much fun when you see somebody come on and they're positive and they want information and they're reaching out. So keep up the good work, folks. This is really your group. This is really your discussion. I'm here to moderate. I'm here to kind of keep things positive. And yeah, this week I did the dirty deed that needed to be done. I had to smack back a couple negative comments, but that happens from time to time. Overall, though, we're extremely positive and welcoming in this group, and I appreciate everything. Let's see who's out there. Let's say hi to some people, then we'll get rolling with tonight. Holy smokes, we are all over the place. We've got New Hampshire. We've got Ossining. You're going to have to help me with that one. Make sure. We've got Gregan from Ontario. We've got Joey Lee from Taiwan. Always nice to see you, Joey. Kurt from Muskegon, getting close to God's country up there. We've got Sean with the first question of the night. Sean, it might not be the first, but you're going to be up on the top of the list there. We're definitely going to discuss that tonight. James Weaver and the Weaver family from Odessa, Texas. Some of the best billets possible out there. We've got Aries from Greenwich, Connecticut. Tony from Rockford, Illinois. Jacob from Winston-Salem. As long as he doesn't have you eat some of that awkward food from his home country. Things are fine. And he's also one of our former winners of our Howie's Hockey Tape giveaways. Brandon's in from Fredericksburg, Virginia. We've got Patrick coming in from Toronto. Jeannie, my cousin from Flint, Michigan's in the house. We've got a lot of people, so keep inviting people. Let's keep growing this group and let's have some fun. So first, let's jump into this. I know I opened something up this week. I did it on purpose. First of all, you couldn't have asked for a better, as a Canadian or an American, you couldn't have asked for a better World Junior game, regardless of the outcome either way. Phenomenal, 2 teams, some of the best talent you're ever going to see at the World Juniors playing in the final game there. Possibly, and this one's going to be a little bit harder for me to research, I hope to get this one done, possibly the most first-rounders ever playing in one game at the World Juniors since the World Juniors have been around. I don't believe I've ever seen that many first-round draft picks playing in one game. So it was an incredible week and a half of hockey. It was a lot of fun to watch. I don't think you could have if you're just a pure hockey fan, it was great no matter where you're from or who you're pulling from. You could say that Canada was a little bit lethargic. You could say whatever you want, but boy, oh boy, it was a good game. It was a lot of fun. And I really look forward to watching both of those groups, both those teams play in the next few years in the NHL. And as you know, there'll be several that'll be stepping into the NHL right away. And just like we had last year, and you'll see some of these kids that'll be just phenomenal stars in the game as we move forward. So I brought this up, and I threw out the brick and the brick tournament. And the reason I did this is, and I knew it would stir emotions up, but I wanted to do this because it's important to know that no matter what level you're at, and no matter what age you're at, where you play matters, okay? And it's not something that changes at 9 years old or 10 years old or 16 or 17 or 18 years old. It matters where you play. The kids that played in the brick, first of all, pull up the brick, go to Elite Prospects, type in anybody, type in Cole Caulfield, and just hit the brick so you get the rosters of the kids from that year, and just set it down side by side with the kids that played in the World Juniors, and just go through line item by line item on the top 20, top 30, top 40 kids from each. The brick's not that big of a tournament; it's only a few teams. You get regional coverage from Canada. You get regional coverage from the United States. I think it's either 4 or 5 teams from each. Not that many teams at all. And the World Juniors aren't that big either. But when you look at this and you look at the incredible amount of kids that played in that tournament that continued through, to me, it proves a point on several fronts. One is there are the rules that are established by the governing bodies of our sport. And then there's the rules of free market that dictate what really happens, okay? I guess the best way to put this and the best way to say this is Tiger Woods wasn't told that he had to play with a small ball or a small club or play just putt-putt when he was growing up. Tiger Woods wasn't constrained from playing on a regular-sized golf course when he was growing up. Of course he played some par 3 courses. Of course he was better on a short course. He was 6, 7, 8 years old. But the idea that anybody should be constrained and told how to develop, to me, is just amazing. Now, with that said, I'm a fan of almost every single thing that the ADM, the American Development Model, does. And that's really what the juxtaposition is here, is why does our governing body tell us how we must develop when the majority of the players that participated in their World Junior program didn't follow that model? And I'm going to hear this right away. Well, the model didn't start to 2002, 2003. That's not really the case. The model is 11 years old. That means that, the model being 11 years old, if you go 11 years back, you're talking about the kids that are playing in that being 8 years old. That's right in the prime area of the development model. Yeah, they might have missed the might experience that the ADM revamped or restructured, But all along the way, all the way up through, remember that the ADM is designed for every age level. It was rolled out for every age to have some different experience on this. The original model is completely different than this. But the reason I bring this up is I'm not a fan of anybody telling me or telling my team or my players or my family which way you should develop. I believe that you should be able to develop any way you want. If you believe in the ADM, great. There's, first of all, let's back up. There's a few things I've got to say about the ADM. First of all, if you're not aware of the ADM and what the ADM is about, the American Development Model, and why it came about, watch the video I've got. Go to the YouTube page, watch the video I've got on the whole USA Hockey and what USA Hockey is about. The ADM is a reactionary process that was put in place. The ADM wasn't rolled out, and the immediacy of it would have never happened except for one event. That event is the KHL. Yes, Russians Pro League, which was going to be, or was supposed to be, the equivalent of the NHL for Europe, and especially for the Russian side of Europe. It didn't quite get to the same level as the NHL, but it's a great league. What the NHL said at that point is, hold it. We spent a lot of money on developing players in Russia and some of the satellite countries around Russia. We're not going to spend that money if the KHL is there, because we're just going to be putting money into the KHL's pocket with developing players, building skills and putting all these resources into that area. So the NHL pulled back on that and said, you know what? We put a lot of money in Canada already through Major Junior Hockey, and we do other things in Canada. We need a process in the United States the same way. So they went to USA Hockey. USA Hockey literally put the ADM together, virtually overnight, to make sure they had a plan in place to be able to take advantage of the resources that the NHL wanted. The NHL said, hey, look, put a plan together for us. Show us what you can do to develop players. Show us what you can do to get there, and we'll help. Now, remember, the U.S. development program was already in Ann Arbor. It was playing out of the Ice Cube. It's since moved 10 miles down the road to Plymouth, but that program was already in place, okay? There was a lot of things that were already in place with the ADM. Coaches already used cross-ice hockey. Coaches already used small area games, all the way up through the NHL. Those are not new inventions. What the ADM, though, did was they changed the perspective of how we looked at the game and said, hold it, competition at younger ages is not conducive to higher level hockey. And the irony is, all the players that they have all started very young on the competitive side. And I think that's the word that's missing with this whole process and this whole ADM model. Once again, I am absolutely not against the ADM. I think the ADM has a place. I think the ADM does a good job. And I like to see that we've got some kind of construct in place. What I'm against is anything that hampers free markets. The word that the ADM seems to have a problem with is competition. They don't want competition at the younger ages. They don't want to keep score. They want everybody to rotate through positions. And some of this stuff is really good stuff, except for the competition part. There's nothing better for a young kid, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years old, than to have a minute left on the clock and have a puck on their stick and figure out what they got to do, okay? Because they're going to do it when they're on the playground. They're going to do it when they're on the backyard rink. I don't understand why that's a bad thing to compete and to teach competition. I'm not saying winning at all costs, and I'm not saying throw everything out on the development side, but I'm not sure why we've decided that the word competition is a negative word when it comes to our development process. So one of the questions I asked this last week is, okay, so all these players came through the BRIC, they came through the Quebec tournament, they were on a different track. What do you think? It was very interesting to see, what their perspective is, because a lot of things came out that I wasn't expecting to hear. Some of the things that came out were, they all had NHL fathers. Well, there are a few of those on the national team. There are some people. There's a couple players that have direct connections to Division I coaches. One's got an uncle that's a coach. One's got a father that's a coach. Yes, that's the case. You've got some NHL connections with a couple players, not very many. And I would say those that argue that, well, their dad was Canadian, he was a pro, and he's really Canadian because, his dad went down to the States to play. The only argument there that is the vast majority of the players that went down to the States, weren't rich. They played, at the AHL or below. These are guys that are, working to make a living kind of guys, and $40,000, $50,000, $80,000 a year, depending on what league they're playing in, or less. To actually look at those guys and say, they got all kinds of advantages. They might love the game, they might have a passion for the game, they might know the game, but money and influence doesn't come when you're playing the East Coast Hockey League. Okay, that's the way it is. Maybe not even with the AHL, and certainly for the majority of the guys that actually are privileged enough to play in the NHL, most of them don't have that moniker of or ordained with them. Now, bigger names, yes, that could be the case, but and it clearly is the case in some situations. So I know I'm talking about a lot here, but I just wanted to make sure that I gave my 2 cents on this. I didn't want to get too involved in the conversation this week because you guys had a great, I don't even want to say it was a debate. People were bringing up points, and other people were bringing up other points on this, and I just think it's a healthy debate. But I want to leave with one thing. If you haven't checked out Junior Hockey Advisor, the website, there on the blog, there's an article that talks about the ADM, and it was last year I wrote this article, and it talks about the 10-year anniversary of the ADM and where we're at right now. The interesting thing about this is I don't really believe that we're giving full credit to all the different things that have created this mass development of great players, not only in the U.S., not only in Canada, but worldwide. And I'm going to tell you about a few of those things because I think they're important to talk about. One is, you've got now technology we never had before. And I'll use the Tiger Woods example again. When Tiger Woods won his first Masters, and they were talking to Tiger Woods about what he did to prepare, 2 things stood out in that interview. 2 things that I remember the most about that interview is, one, he said he watched the videos of prior Masters over and over and over again. And he played Masters on the video game. He actually played the video game, which I find very interesting because it shows that technology, it's that good. It's, the technology to play games now is that good. I know my son played, the NHL game, from the age of 4 years old to 8, 10, 12, whenever he stopped playing it. And the moves and the angles and the thought process and the creativity that comes with playing that game directly correlated to his on-ice game. He was trying things in practices and games that he would have never tried if he hadn't been playing that game. So once again, the technology and the electronic ability to watch video, to watch TV, the fact that you can watch NHL games at any market now is completely different than when I grew up. I was very fortunate. I grew up in the Detroit area, so we got the Canadian broadcasts over, and we were able to watch CBC Hockey Night in Canada. Back in the Howie Meeker days, back in the Peter Puck days, some awesome things came out of that. However, nobody else, south of us or east or west of us were able to watch those broadcasts. So unless you lived in an NHL market, you weren't watching the NHL and you weren't watching it on TV. So in college hockey didn't have a presence on TV. The local college radio would pick up the broadcast. So I know I'm all over the place on this tonight, but I just wanted to make sure we talked about this a little bit. Give me your thoughts on this. Tell me what you thought or what you think about this discussion and where things are at. Let me see if I can jump on and grab a few of the comments and see if anybody has any thoughts on this. And Sean, I didn't forget about your question. We'll get there we'll get there as soon as possible. Okay, let's start off with this. Let's see. So John says, would you love to hear about either being on a team that isn't playing games or not being on a team currently, i.e. played a split season team that can impact making a team next year? Hey, we'll get to that. That's going to be a big part of the conversation. I actually thought that was going in a different direction, John, but I'll get back to that. But yes, let's see. Sean says, I think it should be popping up here, Sean. I don't know why it isn't. Anyway, he says, as a Canadian, I can see the team that came to play and won that gold medal game. Hey, that's true. I agree with that. All right, let's roll. I want to get into some of the questions. There's just more. There's way too much more than I thought going on there. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this one here because this one ties in. Robert says, address how to handle hyper-competitive parents and the behaviors they bring. If I had the magic formula for that, I'd sell it and make money on this broadcast by selling that formula, and I bottle it up. However, over the years I've seen it all. I actually have witnessed a parent walk into a rink, find a business card from a prep school over on a table, pick it up and walk over to the group of parents from his team and go, look at that. This guy just came over and gave me his card. He says my kid's the best player out here, wants him to go to the school. It never happened. I watched the whole process and it's hilarious. Parents do silly things. However, parents do silly things about academics. Parents do silly things if you're in dance competitions. Parents do silly things in the workplace. I can't control that side of it, nor do I really have any answer for that, except for you got to be you and you got to do what you do, and you've got to have a plan put in place, and you got to be prepared for it. Are there going to be parents that are, it's after 9 o'clock at night. Are there going to be parents that are jackasses? Yes. Okay. Are there parents that are assholes? Yes, there are. All right. That's just the way it is. So, knowing that they're there and knowing that part of the process is, being in the right place at the right time and building around yourself the right group. You've heard this thing, and I saw it again this weekend, and I can't remember who said this, but I want to. I don't even know who to attribute it to, but I saw it and it says, I can tell a lot about you by who your friends are, and about who you surround your friends with. If anybody remembers who that quote comes from, please let me know. I'd like to be able to give the credit to the right source on that. However, when you're on a team, if you know that team has a reputation and you're going on it, you're accepting that situation. If you're on a team and you know there's 2 or 3 parents that are a certain way, hey, when I was a parent and when I was in the youth market as a parent, even though I'm involved in the sport, I always separated myself. I always stood away from the group. I never got involved in the conversations. I didn't really care what anybody else was on the team was doing. If they were doing something positive and they made a choice to play on a spring team, they made a choice to try out for another team for the next year, good for them. I smiled, I shook their hand, and I really wished them well because that's all I could do. I don't want to get into the world of the hockey sport tearing other people down so that you can be on walk on their backs. I don't believe that's the best way to go about this. So I really don't care about other parents and how reactionary they are and how crazy they are. What I care about is putting together a good plan. That's why we always talk about being in the right place, being in the right league, being on the right team. How do you do that? Well, you put a good game plan together, and I put those videos out there and those webinars out there for you. If you don't, everybody in the group that has been here for a while, you can put comments in and help the people out that have questions on that. I won't go into a lot of detail there, but that's a lot of it. And let's throw a couple more out here as we go through. And Sean, I didn't forget about you yet. The hand-eye coordination in video games, I am a believer. Balance of practice, rest, fun, which the NHL video game, baseball, tennis, football. Yeah, absolutely. Here's another one. Does IntelliGym work for kids, or does video games have the same effect? Well, you're going to have to answer this yourself. I can tell you this. I've called out IntelliGym numerous times on their data because they claim a lot of stuff on their advertisement. And they have the support of USA Hockey because they spend a lot of money advertising with USA Hockey. But I've called them out on Facebook, on social media, and said, hey, can you give that data that supports what you're claiming? And they, A, will not do that. And number 2, the data they have is for other sports like wrestling and other areas. I can't even tell you where they're getting their data from, but it's mostly from European soccer, wrestling, badminton in China. I don't know. But it's not coming from hockey-specific studies. There is no composite study that shows that IntelliGym can do the things it does. Now, do I believe it can help? Absolutely believe it can help. Do I believe it's a product that you need to spend a lot of money on? When you can buy the NHL video game that's a lot more exciting, a lot more fun, and a lot more realistic, and has a competitive nature to it too. That's your choice, but I know which way I think most people lean on that. One is sold as a scientific method, but will not support it with real data. So believe me, if anybody out there has the ability to show that, I'd love to see it. If you guys that are just new to the show, I'm a very data-driven person. Everything I do is based on some kind of data. I don't, even though I've been doing this as a coach, as an owner, as a GM for a very, very long time, and as a parent, I try to support everything I do on this with data and with trends and with support of actual information. So if anybody out there sees it, let me know. I'd love to see that. But I honestly think that you're better off using an NHL any video game, soccer, because it's the same concepts, and it's all about learning, how to play and how to have fun and how to be creative. So, all right. So let's see, Robert, I hope that when we got back to that parent question, that helped a little bit, but I'm going to take a little time now to jump into Shane's question first, then I'm going to get to the Weaver family's comment next. So, or Sean, first question with the province of British Columbia extending their lockdown until February 5th. This has had an effect on junior hockey in the province. What do you see as the negative effects, for this continued lockdown having on junior players, but more specifically the 19 and 20-year-olds? Wow. So if you're a 19 or 20-year-old right now, it doesn't matter if you're in British Columbia, it doesn't matter where you're at. The walls have tightened in on the 19 and 20-year-olds. And what do I mean by that? And this is where I may be wrong on my original take on this. My original take was the NCAA changed their rules and have allowed any player to stay for one more year of eligibility, regardless if the team played any games this year or played none. So if you got and this is Division III and Division I. So if I'm a Division I player and my season, we played 15 games, I can still come back next year and still have a full year. If we played 20 games, I can still come back. If we played 0 games, I can still come back and play next year. What that's doing, though, is that's putting a lot of pressure on the recruiting process, because now coaches don't have to go out and find that 19 and 20-year-old to come in immediately as a freshman, because they might have 3, 4, 5 seniors. Now, my first take on this was, and this is where I'm starting to get a little bit more, push on this from coaches, especially on the college ranks, on saying, no, we think we're going to have a lot of seniors stick around. My first take was, why would a senior that's not heading into the pro ranks, that's going to graduate and is going to move on into his life, into his career, if he's had a satisfying 3 years, yes, his senior year may have been screwed up a little bit, why would he come back? And I guess there's a little bit more of a number there that are willing to come back for that other year, even if they're not going to get any support financially, because they say that they're eligible to come back. But remember, if you graduate, you don't necessarily have money sitting there for you to come back on scholarship because you weren't allocated into that scholarship process past your graduation. So you could see a lot of players taking advantage of this that I wasn't really thinking that we're going to do this. And it's going to become in the form of grad transfers, and it's going to be in the form of players just sticking around for another year and wanting to enjoy the process and enjoy being a senior all over again. So if I'm wrong on that, that's where the 19 and 20-year-olds are really going to have that pressure. The backfill and the backlog, I really can't say exactly how bad it's going to be, but I can tell you right now, if you look at the concentration of great players that are playing in leagues other than the BCHL right now, you're seeing it across Western Canada where they're pushed down to lower levels. You're seeing it in the North American Hockey League. You're seeing it in the NCDC. These are leagues that, at this time of year, you usually see 3, 4, 5 players that are Division I commitments. Now you're seeing these teams with 9 or 10 commitments on the team. And more importantly, what I'm seeing this year more than ever is decommitments. And not decommitments from the player perspective, but decommitments coming from the college side. So as coaches are going, wow, This is a buyer's market for coaches. Coaches right now, they've got talent coming out of their ears at all levels right now, so they're going to be very selective, and they're not going to have to fill the holes as much. So the ones that I really believe are going to come out of this hurt the most are the 19 and 20-year-olds. Those are going to be your 2001 birth years. I think the O2s, I think this all settles out by the time the O2s get into the full commitment process. Remember, O2s, O3s, O4s, if your parents, or O5s, if your parents right now in those areas, you still have a long way to go in this process. And remember, the majority of Division I commitments comes for that last year in juniors, those players moving on. So, you're going to see 40 or 50 in a normal year. In a normal year, you'll see 40 or 50 commits a month between now and August, and it'll be in the D1 ranks. This year, I really can't, Sean, in any kind of educated answer, give you anything except for an opinion on this. And my opinion is, the walls have closed in. You're going to see a lot of great Division I talent players that are 19 and 20 years old playing Division III hockey this year. And the reason is although the NCAA has allowed one more year, junior hockey has not allowed one more year, at least not yet. If USA Hockey opens up the door, if Hockey Canada opens up the door and allows those players to stick around for one more year, maybe all the back pressure goes off at the same time, and this, the flow continues the way it should. But right now, I don't see that being the case. So let's see how it all plays out. Be very, very interested to see what direction this goes. So let's see what else we got on the board here for questions. Okay, so what is your opinion on Sense Arena and the virtual reality? Is it worth the cost? Consider it for my goalie. Like, I was very involved a few years ago with Athletic Republic. I was on the national board for the company, and we got involved with sensory awareness programs, and we actually spent a few weeks at the Nike campus and doing sensory deprivation training processes. In other words, taking away eyesight and what it does to all your other senses, and working with different things. And there was actually a product, a strobe set of glasses that were on the market that Nike had produced. And it's unfortunate that the reason that they took them off the market had nothing to do with the quality and had nothing to do with the actual product. It had to do with an internal issue with leadership at Nike and the direction. And that's a whole nother story. I'm a firm believer in anything that works on the senses. I'm a firm believer in any kind of sensory training for players. In individual products, I don't know enough about the individual products, but anything that works on hand-eye coordination, anything that works on any type of sensory awareness training, it's athleticism. The more you build, it's like anything else. If you build your balance, you become a better athlete. If you build your sensory awareness, the biggest thing about sensory awareness is making sure, now this is getting off into a little bit of a tangent, but it's teaching athletes how to be a two-eyed athlete. And by the way, this is just me getting off on a tangent, but it's fun to do this stuff from time to time. When you see a video or you see an advertisement that says, let's look at the game from the eyes of a hockey player that's 8 or 9 years old or 6 years old, and they show this 4-mile wide rink, and they show these nets that are 6 feet or 8 feet high, and they go, this is what it looks like. First of all, most of those players are not that much shorter than some of the players in the NHL. Okay, Brian Jonta, 5 foot something. There's short guys in the NHL too. But the part of this is if you measure between here and here, or in the middle of your eye for the middle of your eye, it doesn't change much in your whole life. In other words, what you're born with, you don't end up with eyes out to here as you grow older. The perspective and your angles all stay the same. Your optics don't change no matter what level you're looking at it from. You can look at it from 2 feet, the net looks the same. You look at it from 6 feet, the size of the net looks the same. So that argument about, that's a small space argument. You saw some advertisement for that with USA Hockey. It's just not a logical argument when you actually break down how things work. You triangulate things from these two objects, and You can get into the actual geometry of it, but it doesn't change. It doesn't change from the age of 4 or 5 or 20 or 30 or 40. So what you see is the size of the puck is the same size of the puck. It doesn't change when you get older. The size of the puck is the size of the puck when you're small, and it's the same size when you're big. So I laugh at that when we see that. So, okay, let's look at this. Scott asked the question, which is better, NCAA 3 or Division 3 mid-level team or an ACHA top 10 team? That's a great question. We've got a lot of ACHA coaches and Division III coaches that are involved with the discussion group. You might want to throw that out in the discussion group to see what their opinion is. I know that when I was in the Marine Corps, I played for the All-Marine hockey team, and we got a chance to play some of the great ACHA programs from all over the United States. And we played Arizona State. We played we played some of the California schools. And some of these ACHA teams were just full of OHL guys that were looking to, take advantage of their college money, and they were phenomenal. They were great teams. Penn State was a phenomenal ACHA team before it became a Division I team. Arizona was a phenomenal team, and there's still a ton of teams that are phenomenal at the ACHA level, at the Division I level, or their top level. Division I is different for ACHA. It's a club level sport. So to say which is better, well, the difference being is in ACHA you're still paying to play. Yes, it can be subsidized by your school to an extent, but you're paying to play on that team. It's a club sport. And with a club sport, that means that you're putting a club effort into it, meaning no matter how good the talent is, no matter how good the coaching is, most ACHA programs only practice 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and academics are the priority, meaning players are missing all the time because they have commitments for academics. A Division III program, the intensity is a little bit different. You are going to be on the ice 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, and you're probably going to have a pregame skate on Friday for your Friday night and your Saturday night games if you play Friday and Saturday. So it's practice all week, 2 hours. You're going to lift as a team. You're going to probably do film, and you're going to do all your other training items as a team. And your commitment is going to be 3 to 5 hours a day. And then if you move it up to the next level, and that's the Division I level, your commitment's going to be from 2 o'clock to 2:30 in the afternoon till 8 or 9 o'clock every day. That's just the way it works. It is a job at the Division I level. So to compare the teams is really not fair, because even a low-level D3 team, because of the amount of ice they get and the amount of time that they are able to be on the ice working on things and to becoming better and structured, they can compete with a lot of talented ACHA teams. Yes, there can be ACHA teams that have deep talent, and it's a great option for a lot of families to go that route. But it really is comparing apples to oranges. I really would find it hard and difficult to compare the two, because you're just not playing in the same. You're not playing on the same playground. You're not playing with the same resources. You're not playing with the same coaching abilities. There's some great ACHA coaches, but they're still mostly volunteers or part-time, versus a guy that him and his staff can put 24/7 into a team, and they have the school's resources and recruiting resources behind there. So no slight at all against the ACHA. In fact, you can get great deals for money and for the opportunities. And you can go to some schools that actually have Division I hockey teams there, so you can skate with the same uniform on, you can skate in the same arena, and still participate for your school in those ways. But I wouldn't want to try to compare the two. They're just apples and oranges. So hope that helped a little bit. Scott's going to follow up on that by asking, what about for a player moving out of juniors? Once again, if you've got opportunities, you explore them all. If I've got a player coming out of juniors right now, and the door's open for some D3 schools, and the door's open for some ACHA opportunities, it comes down to, there's so many things in the mix, but I'll give you a few brief things on what I would be looking for first. One is there's the 3 mixes right off the bat. How do I fit academically? How do I fit socially? And how do I fit in the hockey world? And what's my priorities? If my academics are the high priority, maybe playing Division III is not right for me because of the time commitment. if the social experiment of college is important to me, I want to be involved with, being in a play. I want to be involved in singing in a musical. I want to be able to do other things and join other clubs. Division III might not be the way to go because you want to participate in other things. You want to have a little bit more of an experience. Club sports start and end on a different schedule, and it's not the same. You still have time for other things when you play a club sport. So I would actually look at those other factors. And then the next level down is, where is it located? How good are the academics? How much is it going to cost me? And what kind of deal can I get? You're really not going to get a deal at D3. D3 cannot give you anything they can't give every student. So if you go into school, you're competing against, for grant and aids against everybody in the school. You play ACHA, they might have the ability to pull out money and to give you in-state tuition or do things that other that Division III and Division I schools can't do because they're not playing under the same rules of the NCAA. So I know I'm not really giving you a specific answer on that, but there's a lot of things to factor into that, and I'd be very careful on for anybody out there that thinks the ACHA is not the right avenue. You're going to find a lot of great hockey players playing ACHA hockey because it is a good level. So hopefully that helps a little bit, Scott. Let's jump into some other things here and see. I know I got one I got to go back to, and that's the Weavers, because I saw them throw something on, and I wanted to make sure I got to them next. Okay, here's James Weaver, and James says, as a billet parent, I saw a question last week about billeting, and I think it's a good topic to cover both for players and billet parents. Not sure if you still have that individual specific comments to refer to. I do, and I saw those comments. I didn't jump on board because it was a good conversation was flowing already on that. However, let's do a whole show on billets. Excuse me. Let's do a whole show on billets. I'll do that in the near future, James, and I'll talk about the pluses and minuses of billeting from a billet, because my family for years was a billet family. We have our whole bottom half of our house. We had sometimes 2 and 3 players. We're fortunate enough to have a house that they had their own bathroom, they had their own rec room, and they had their own bedroom. So there's some great things about being a billet parent. There's some do's and don'ts as far as the players and what parents that have kids coming up through the billet process should actually look forward to. So James, that's great. I'll do a whole, I don't know if it'll take up a whole show, but we'll make sure that's an emphasis on one of our upcoming shows as we go through here. How are we doing on time? Well, we're doing pretty good on time, so just want to make sure here. Okay, so that's that on that. Let's see what else we got here. All right, let's see what John's got to say here. Would you love? Oh, I already got that one, John. I'm gonna save that one. I'm not gonna get into that one yet. I'm scrolling. Hang on with me. Anything else coming up? Okay, here's one. Jimmy says, how important is it to hire representation while maneuvering the junior hockey landscape? First of all, Jimmy, that's a great face. It's like a Sopranos face. I'm liking that. Is that you? If that's you, I gotta like the fact that you can pull that face off. I could. I don't know if I could do that, but good face, a little attitude. I like that. I gotta throw a little attitude out there. All right. So the question: what's the opinion on hiring representation? Hiring representation it changes from family to family. Remember, it also depends on your direction. If you're moving into the junior ranks and you're moving into Tier 3, there are specialists for Tier 3 juniors. And people say, why would I spend money on an advisor just to go pay to play on a junior team? Well, it really is effective for some people, and it does work, because if there's one area that has the broadest standard deviation from the top teams to the bottom teams, is Tier 3 junior hockey, which would be equivalent to the junior B level in Canada. And yes, there's a lot of Tier 3 junior hockey players that still go on and play college hockey. Not so much to the Division I ranks, but they fill the Division III ranks and they fill the ACHA ranks. So to have that experience and to put, the cost of an advisor is relative to every family. And I can't tell you, remember, I'm not an advisor, but I do have a great webinar that's online at Junior Hockey Advisor that talks about hiring an advisor and the process, the who, what, when, where, and why you want to hire an advisor, and the things to look out for and the things to do that. Yes, advisors can be extremely helpful. Advisors can actually put you in the right spot. They can connect you to the right people. But remember, for every segment of the game, there's great advisors. The guy that works with players in the USHL is really not going to help you on the East Coast with Tier 3, not as much as you think he's going to help you. The guy that's working with prospects that are going to move into the NHL is not the guy that's going to help you get into prep school in the Boston area or the Massachusetts area. The guy that's doing prep in the Boston area is not going to help you if you're trying to get into the BCHL. Maybe that one doesn't work as well because they actually do, because there's a direct correlation between prep hockey and the BCHL. That's a whole different video. I got a video on that. But the bottom line on advisors are, yes, they work. Do you need an advisor? It depends. It depends. It's like hiring a lawyer. If somebody says, "Do I need a lawyer?" and the answer from the lawyer is, "Well, it depends." And it depends on, what you're willing, how much value you put in that relationship, and how much homework you put into it. I would never hire an advisor until I had already completed the 2 videos that I put out there for you. One is, just about building, and you can find those videos. They're the 2 on the left on my website. If you scroll down, the 2 on the left are the free videos. One deals with hiring an advisor. The other one is about, preparing yourself to move forward in the process of moving from youth hockey to juniors or to prep or to high school, and then from there to juniors, and then moving from juniors to college. It's about building a marketing plan. It's about building a team around you. It's about messaging, and it's about consistency, and it's about not giving up, persevering through everything, the highs and lows. So before I hired an advisor, I'd take the time. I'd take a few hours to go through those webinars that I put out there, just to be able to give yourself the basics and to be able to have a nice landing spot of information. Yes, you can hire an advisor, but an advisor is one person on your team. Some advisors really don't do anywhere near as much as you think they can do for you, except give you some guidance. Because you still have to be doing the emails, you still have to be doing the interaction, you still have to put the work in. And I think it's important that you understand that as you go through the process. So I hope that helps a little bit. Let's see if I can get a couple more in here. We got to start wrapping it up a little bit. So Tony says, what about prior to those options? I have a 17-year-old and we're considering AAA and possibly juniors. So we wait on juniors, does it matter? Okay, Tony, that's a great question. When do you jump to juniors? Okay, if you're at the elite of the elite level, which is if you are being courted by the USHL and you're afforded the opportunity and you're drafted high in the USHL draft, and that door opens at 16 or 17, you want to take that. And that option is, that's a no-brainer for anybody, because you're putting yourself into that, once again, where you play matters. If you're given the opportunity to play for a local junior team in a market that's not a USHL team, it's a Tier 3 team, and the local Tier 3 team says you should be playing with us, and you have the ability to play U18 and U16 and U15 at a higher level, I should do that backwards, 15, 16, and 18 at a higher level, meaning you can play in the Beast level, you can play in the Tier 1 Elite, you can play in the AYHL, you can play in the HPHL, those top leagues. Of course you want to be in the top leagues playing 16s and 18s. The reason is because you're going to be afforded more opportunities, and you're going to be exposed to more. And when you do your work, which is emailing coaches, opening up doors, participating in showcases, and doing everything that surrounds trying to move up the ladder, being on those teams are going to open the door to more opportunities. The unfortunate side of things is it's very difficult, and I hate to say it this way, but it is. It's very difficult once you make the step into Tier 3 junior hockey to move into Tier 2 or Tier 1. Does it happen? Yes, it does. But even just to give you a perspective on this, every North American Hockey League team drafts at least one player from Tier 3 junior hockey, usually from their own team, from the subsidiary team below them. And they tender at least one player. But if you look at the rosters across the board and how many of those players from those Tier 3 teams actually stick at the North American Hockey League level, the numbers are extremely small. I mean, we're talking single-digit amount of players that actually make it from those leagues. So it doesn't necessarily mean that those players are were worse at one point than the players that are playing in the North American Hockey League. Sometimes that's the case, but it's very difficult to change the bias that comes along with being a Tier 3 player at the Tier 2 level. Regardless of what people say, there is a bias that comes with that, and they would rather take a kid that's coming out of Victory Honda or coming out of Chicago Mission that are 17 years old out of those programs and develop them into the program than they would a kid that at 16 years old is playing for one of the Tier 3 programs. And I'm not picking on Tier 3 hockey because there's still a path for Tier 3 hockey players to play college. It's just the reality. That's the way the world works, and that's the way it is. So I hope that answers it, and I hope that helps a little bit on that question, Tony. Tony, great question, by the way. But you can work on the look. You know, you got to get the Jimmy D look. I mean, you know, see if you can get that look going. If you get that look going, then I'll appreciate it even more when you put a question up. Let's see if I can get a couple more. Kurt says, let's see what Kurt's got to say on this. Kurt says, my son is a freshman playing varsity hockey. He's 15. When I try to get feedback about him and his potential, people say he's good, but he's young. What does that mean? Is that a good thing? Trying to understand and help my son achieve his goals, and is he capable? I know it popped off my screen there a little bit earlier. So yes and no. First of all, there's a lot of good ways of getting information that is real information. And you know, the first thing I would do, and I tell this to everybody, if you're 15 years old and you're not in the showcases for the spring, and you know, this pandemic year is weird, get involved with showcases. Get involved with showcases on the East Coast. There's some good ones in Detroit. There's one in Colorado. There's another one in the Tennessee area. I believe it's Nashville area, but mostly in the Boston area. You know, the showcases there. And you know, I'm not here advocating one brand, but I can tell you the ones like the pre-draft showcase. I'll use that as an example because it's an easy example. The amount of people that are involved in that, the coaches and the scouts and the people that build those teams that have direct correlation or direct connections, not correlation, connections to junior teams is amazing. Okay, these people are in the industry and they're in the business, so they're going to give you a little bit more of a no BS. Sometimes your local area, if you're playing high school and you ask your coach how you're doing and are you ready for juniors or are you ready for the next level, remember, a high school coach can be selfish. A high school coach should be, well, you know, one more year, because their goal is to build a good team for themselves. So their angle, their perspective, their opinion, you know, needs to always be put into a situation where you're taking the whole perspective of what their motivations are and what's good for them too. And I hate to say this, I know some great U18 coaches out there, some of the best. I'm talking top 10, top 20 U18 programs in the United States have a selfish motivation. They want to keep the players on their team as long as possible, even if the player is ready to go. Now, as long as you know that, then their opinion can be validated and you can put it into, you know, you can use that as a litmus test against other opinions too. So can an advisor help with that? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I would ask that advisor before you give them a check where you think your son fits in if you're going to hire an advisor. Because that answer will be different after you get a check and maybe not even be as helpful after you get a check, hopefully more helpful. But ask them, you know, where do you see my son? Where do you see him fit in? What do you think you can do? You can call up 4 or 5 advisors and try to see where you fit in the world, and that'll help, you know, drastically. But, you know, the biggest thing too is get out on the ice for some showcases. You know, go to some tryouts for teams that you might think are, you know, a stretch, or even teams that you think you're ready for. See how you fit, see what they say when you go to a tryout. If you're going to tryouts of where people say, well, you know, we think he's this good, and he doesn't make it through the second level of the tryout, maybe that gives you a little bit of an answer. But one tryout can't be the answer. You got to go to multiple tryouts, because remember, if I'm a left wing and I go to a team and I try out, and this happens in the USHL all the time, kids will show up, they're 15 deep at great players at left wing, but there's only one spot because 3 players are returning to that junior team. It's not really a good indicator of if your son's good enough to play at that level or not. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I know it's a little bit of not a direct question on that, but I don't really have enough information to give you more than that across the board. So this one came into advisors will tell you what they want to hear until you pay the money. Sometimes. But there's great advisors out there that will be objective with you up front, because remember, a good advisor. Not, there is that percentage. The reason I do this is because there's some bad advisors out there, not the good advisors. The good advisors are the ones that'll look you in the eye and go, you know what, you're really not the person I want to represent because I don't think I can help you on what you're trying to do, either talent-wise or direction-wise or finances-wise. But there's a lot of reasons why a good advisor will say no, and a good advisor will say no. Okay, but it also, there's great advisors out there that will say, you know what, you're perfect for what I do, and they're not going to lie to you. Yes, you're absolutely right. Some advisors do tell you whatever you want to hear, but that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing right now. Tonight is because of those people, and they're the minority. I'm going to tell you right now, the majority of people out there that are in the industry are good people. They work hard and they try to do the right thing. But there is that faction. There's those people out there that don't do it right. So that's a good comment, and I appreciate you putting that comment up on the board. So what else we got? That's about it from my side. Let me see if I got anything I can try to jump on real quick. Okay, I'm going to jump on one more here, and then we're going to call it the night because we've been at it for a while already. I think we're already pushing the 10 o'clock mark, and we're getting close to it. With experienced rosters, the value of sitting out in the null or playing at the tier 3 level for a good program. Oh, this is a great question. So the question is expanded rosters. Well, there's not as much expanded rosters at the North American Hockey League as you think. I think most of the teams are actually, running fairly lean compared to it. Now, USA Hockey, I really haven't got a complete sense on if they allowed them to open up and expand what their USA Hockey roster is. But I just went through and watched maybe 8 or 9 different, watched 8 teams, 4 games this last 2 or 3 days, North American Hockey League games. Watched the rosters. I know a lot of these kids. I know a lot of the, where they came through, and I've been watching them for years. And the rosters of who's not in the lineup and who's not, most of these teams are still fairly thin. USA Hockey may allow them to protect more, but I don't really think that anybody's, stockpiling talent, especially since the talent's so deep right now. It's very hard to stockpile talent. Some guys are keeping a couple younger guys on the roster that might not be in the lineup every night, but there's not as much as you think. Now, with that said, the question's still there, and it's a valid question, and it's a great question. If I'm not seeing a lot of time when I'm on a North American Hockey League team, is it better for me to be there, or is it better to be on a Tier 3 team? So the first thing is the reality of the world is if you are on a North American Hockey League roster, you have been ordained as a North American Hockey League player, and that's going to stay with you. If you're playing Tier 3 hockey, you're a Tier 3 hockey player. Now, that's the reality of this. So you have to look at the next couple of things. Is skill development going to change? I can tell you right now, there's very few teams at the Tier 3 level that are competing in practice the way a North American Hockey League or a USHL or a BCHL team or an AJHL team are competing. Okay, the players are bigger, faster, and stronger, and like we've talked about a lot, you're talking about 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 Division I players or future Division I players on the ice in a North American Hockey League practice. So you tell me, if I have a player that's borderline, maybe not quite there at the North American Hockey League, but he can get on a roster, or he can play at Tier 3. If I believe that North American Hockey League team is going to actually elevate him, that's great. But what happens a lot of times is those players will end up on another North American Hockey League the next season because somebody will take a chance and get them into the roster because they were on the team last year. They were in the league, for the last year. Just like at the NHL level, you go, how did that coach stay in the league? Well, it's because once they're a coach at the NHL level, other people will hire NHL coaches and keep them in the game. Players that have played at the NHL level are safe versus, especially if you're looking for a third line or fourth line player, it's safer to take a guy that's been in the league than it is to hope on a kid that's coming up that's younger. So the question you have about which is best, if I know that there's still potential there, now if I'm in my last year, I don't want to be sitting on the bench or sitting in the stands in the North American Hockey League. I want to play because that's where I'm going to get my D3 looks, and that's important. If I'm younger, I would say that I'd be very hard pressed to tell anybody not to consider staying in the North American Hockey League, even if they're not getting the game time and the game experience, because those practices, are going to be amazing. The lessons learned for that year, if you're a young player, are going to pay off for you. And you've seen a lot of great players that are some of the top players in the NHL and not the NHL, the North American Hockey League and the USHL right now, started off sitting in the stands their first year when they were 17 years old. So it does work. It is a process that works. If that's not the direction, if I don't see myself being able to be a top player in the NAHL, playing Tier 3 is great. There's nothing wrong with that, and those same rules apply. Get in on the best program, the best league possible, and the best program possible, because those are where all the best players are going to, basically be, and those are the players that are going to go first to the best schools when it comes to moving on to the Division III ranks. So hopefully that helped a little bit. I know I'm being a little bit blunt on that, but the reality is, if I've got a 17-year-old right now in a North American Hockey League team, or I've got an 18-year-old that just graduated, and he's got his 18 year, his 19 year, and his 20 year, he's got 3 years of junior hockey left, and he's got an ability to play at that level of league, and there's that much talent on the ice in every practice, and you've got a full-time coaching staff, you've got arenas with full staffs that support the team. It's a different world when you get to the North American Hockey League than it is playing Tier 3 hockey. Now, there are a couple of Tier 3 programs that have similar environments, but not the talent, not the same level of talent. So hopefully that helps a little bit. All right. With that said, I think we're going to call it a night and call it. You guys did a great job. What great feedback tonight. Do me that favor if you can. We've had a great audience tonight. To keep growing this audience, please go to the YouTube Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube page. Subscribe to it if you can. Watch a few videos. It'll help us with our numbers. If you're not part of our discussion group, please join the discussion group. We always have great conversations there. I don't dominate the conversations. I let the group try to take it, and once in a while I'll jump in with my opinion, but I'm just one of another person's opinion on there. I want to see the group have lively discussions on things because collectively there's a lot more information. And remember, there's a lot of sleepers out there. We've got, several hundred people now in that group that are everything from BCHL board members to GMs. I can tell you actively, there are several GMs at the USHL level that monitor everything we're doing. You won't see them actually participating in the conversations, but they want to know what the pulse is. They want to know, what people are thinking. They want to see what's going on too. So there's a lot of resources that are behind the scenes that you don't always see. Go to and like and follow our regular group too. That'd be a big help. I sure would appreciate that. And this new year is going to be awesome, folks. We're going to try to continue to go through. The one thing I didn't do tonight is I wanted to get into clarifying some of the questions from last week. If there's some things that we left undone from last week and you're watching this week and you want more clarification on things, DM me. I'll make sure. I'll even put some mini videos together and throw them online if there's some specific things. But please don't ask questions if you haven't gone and watched our videos yet. If you haven't done the webinar on the Junior Hockey Advisor yet, if you haven't done it on the ways to achieve your ultimate goal in hockey, if you haven't done those webinars yet, hold your questions off till you get through those, because those are going to answer the majority of the questions you have about this process and about educating yourself on this process. So have a great night, everybody. It's been a blast. I can't wait till next week, and we'll see you next time.
Now listen. I want all of our friends and family to share this on Instagram and TikTok.